Jennifer Blackwood stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, gently dabbing concealer over the purple bruise blooming across her cheekbone. The cool marble countertop pressed against her palms as she leaned forward, inspecting her handiwork. Outside, rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, the Manhattan skyline obscured by sheets of grey. "It's just a one-time thing," she whispered to herself, the words hollow even to her own ears. She had repeated this mantra for the past 3 hours, ever since Matthew had stormed out of their penthouse, leaving her crumpled on the Italian marble floor. Jennifer hadn't seen it coming. In their 5 years of marriage, Matthew Blackwood, tech mogul, venture capitalist, and one of New York's most eligible bachelors before he'd married her, had never laid a hand on her. He'd been demanding, controlling, sometimes cold, but never violent. Until today. "Where is it?" Matthew had roared, bursting into her walk-in closet where she'd been organizing her summer wardrobe. His face, usually composed for board meetings and investor calls, had contorted with rage. "Where's what?" Jennifer had asked, genuinely confused. "My watch, Jennifer. The Patek Philippe. The one-of-a-kind piece worth more than this entire building." Jennifer knew the watch well. The anniversary gift from his late father, presented to Matthew just weeks before the elder Blackwood's fatal heart attack. The timepiece was more than a luxury item. It was Matthew's talisman, his connection to a man whose approval he had spent a lifetime chasing. "I haven't touched it," she had replied, her voice small against his fury. "Isn't it in the safe?" What happened next played in slow motion in her mind. Matthew's face darkening, his hand rising, the sharp crack as his palm connected with her face, sending her stumbling backward into her collection of designer handbags. "Don't lie to me," he had snarled. "You're the only other person who knows the combination." The accusation stung worse than the blow. Jennifer had never betrayed Matthew's trust, never given him reason to doubt her. Yet here he was, looking at her like she was a stranger, a thief. A knock at the bathroom door jolted Jennifer back to the present. "Mrs. Blackwood." It was Marissa, their housekeeper. "Mr. Blackwood is on the phone. He says it's urgent." Jennifer's stomach twisted. "Tell him I'll call him back." "He insists, ma'am." With trembling fingers, Jennifer accepted the phone. "Matthew." "Jennifer." His voice was controlled now, no trace of the earlier rage. "I've been thinking about our disagreement." Disagreement, as if they had argued about dinner plans or vacation destinations. "I spoke with my therapist," Matthew continued. "He thinks I'm under too much stress with the IPO coming up. The watch. It was just the breaking point." Jennifer remained silent. "I've booked us a table at Daniel, 8 o'clock. Wear the blue Valentino I bought you in Paris." A pause. "We'll talk then." The line went dead before Jennifer could respond. She handed the phone back to Marissa, who hovered uncertainly in the doorway. "Will you be going out tonight, Mrs. Blackwood?" Jennifer's gaze drifted to the window, to the rain-soaked city beyond. 5 years ago, she'd been Jennifer Chen, a promising art historian at the Metropolitan Museum. Now she was Mrs. Matthew Blackwood, trophy wife, social accessory, the woman whose husband had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "Yes, Marissa, I'll be going out." But as Jennifer moved to her closet to find the blue Valentino, her foot brushed against something under the bathroom vanity. Bending down, she discovered a small, leather-bound notebook she'd never seen before. Opening it, she found page after page of handwritten notes, lists of names, figures, and what appeared to be meeting times. The last entry, dated just yesterday, caught her eye. "M's watch. Perfect leverage. Client will pay double." Jennifer's blood ran cold. She didn't recognize the handwriting, but one thing was clear. She wasn't the one who had taken Matthew's watch. Someone else had been in their home, in their private spaces. Someone who had access to their lives and knew about Matthew's prized possession. Carefully, Jennifer slid the notebook into her purse. She would go to dinner with Matthew, play the part of the dutiful, forgiving wife. But starting tonight, she would begin her own investigation. Because someone had set her up, had made her husband believe she was a thief, had caused him to cross a line he'd never crossed before, and Jennifer was determined to find out who and why. The soft clink of crystal glasses and the murmured conversations of New York's elite filled the dining room at Daniel. Jennifer sat across from Matthew, the blue Valentino dress hugging her figure, her makeup expertly concealing the evidence of his earlier outburst. To anyone observing them, the power couple in their corner booth sipping Dom Perignon, They appeared to be enjoying a romantic evening. "You look beautiful," Matthew said, his blue eyes scanning her face. He reached across the table to take her hand. "Jennifer, about this morning—" "Not here," she interrupted softly, glancing around at the nearby tables. She'd spent the afternoon cycling through emotions: fear, anger, confusion, and finally, resolve. The notebook hidden in her purse had changed everything. Someone wanted to drive a wedge between her and Matthew, and for now she needed to play along. Matthew's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "We'll discuss it at home." As they moved through their 6-course tasting menu, Jennifer studied her husband with new eyes. Matthew Blackwood, at 42, was still the striking figure she'd fallen for, tall, with salt and pepper hair that added to his aura of authority. As the founder of Blackwood Technologies, he'd transformed a startup coding project into a multi-billion-dollar empire. His brilliance was undeniable, his drive unmatched, but there had always been a darkness to him, a coldness that surfaced when things didn't go his way. Jennifer had attributed it to the pressure of running a global company, to the weight of expectations he carried. Now, she wondered if she'd been willfully blind. "I've been thinking," Matthew said as their dessert arrived, "perhaps we should take that trip to the Maldives next month, after the IPO. Just the two of us. A peace offering, a way to sweep the morning's violence under the rug of luxury and privilege." "That sounds perfect," Jennifer replied, forcing a smile. "I could use some sun." Matthew's shoulders relaxed slightly. He believed she was falling in line, returning to the role of compliant wife. It was exactly what Jennifer needed him to think. "I have that charity gala tomorrow night," she said casually. "The one for the Children's Hospital. I'll be late." "I'll be in Boston for meetings anyway," Matthew replied. "Back the day after." Perfect. Jennifer would have time to begin her investigation without his watchful eye. At the next table, a woman laughed too loudly, drawing Jennifer's attention. The woman was in her early 30s, with sleek blonde hair and a designer dress that screamed new money, but it was her companion that caused Jennifer's heart to skip. Richard Sullivan, Matthew's chief financial officer, the man who had access to all of Blackwood Technologies' financial records, who knew the security codes to their home, who had been Matthew's right-hand man for nearly a decade. The same Richard Sullivan who had been acting strangely around Jennifer for weeks, avoiding eye contact, making excuses to leave rooms when she entered. Jennifer watched as Richard leaned in to whisper something in the blonde's ear, his hand resting possessively on her wrist. The woman, clearly not his wife, whom Jennifer had met at company functions, giggled and cast a furtive glance around the restaurant. Her gaze locked briefly with Jennifer's before darting away. "Do you know that woman?" Jennifer asked Matthew, nodding subtly toward the couple. Matthew glanced over his shoulder, his expression hardening momentarily before smoothing into practiced neutrality. "Never seen her before," he said, returning his attention to his dessert. "Why?" Jennifer shrugged, filing away his reaction. She just looked familiar. Later that night, after Matthew had fallen asleep, Jennifer slipped out of bed and retrieved the notebook from her hidden spot in her closet. Under the soft glow of her phone's flashlight, she examined it more closely. The handwriting was neat, precise, possibly a woman's. Several entries mentioned clients and deliveries, but without context, they meant little. One entry from a week ago stood out: "Met with RS at the usual spot. Confirmed MB's routine. Will proceed as planned. RS Richard Sullivan, MB Matthew Blackwood." Someone had been tracking his movements, planning something involving his watch. But who was the author of the notebook? And what was the usual spot? Her thoughts were interrupted by the buzz of Matthew's phone on his nightstand. Instinctively, Jennifer froze. The screen illuminated briefly, displaying a text message notification. "All set for tomorrow, 2 p.m., don't be late." The sender was listed simply as E. Jennifer's heart pounded. Matthew had told her he'd be in Boston all day for meetings, yet this message suggested he had other plans. Was it connected to the missing watch? To the notebook? Carefully, she slid back into bed, mind racing. Tomorrow, while Matthew was supposedly in Boston, she would start digging, and she knew exactly where to begin. Morning sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows as Jennifer watched Matthew prepare to leave. He moved with the confident efficiency that had made him a force in the business world, packing his overnight bag with precisely what he would need for a day and night in Boston. "I should be back by tomorrow evening," he said, checking his watch. Not the missing Patek Philippe, but a more understated Rolex he wore for everyday business. "Try not to schedule anything." Jennifer nodded, playing the role of dutiful wife. "I'll be here." She handed him his travel phone charger, their fingers brushing. "Have a safe trip." Something flickered in Matthew's eyes. Guilt? Regret? It was gone before she could identify it. He leaned down and kissed her cheek, the same one he had struck the day before. "We'll talk when I get back," he promised. "Really talk." As soon as the elevator doors closed behind him, Jennifer sprang into action. She called the one person she trusted implicitly. "Zoe, it's me. I need your help." Zoe Campbell had been Jennifer's roommate at Columbia before becoming a private investigator. They'd drifted apart after Jennifer's marriage. Matthew had never approved of the friendship, but they'd reconnected secretly over the past year. "Jen, what's wrong? You sound stressed." Jennifer took a deep breath. "Can you meet me? It's important." 2 hours later, they sat in a quiet corner of a coffee shop in the West Village, far from the Upper East Side circles where Jennifer might be recognized. "Jesus, Jen," Zoe whispered, gently touching the edge of Jennifer's concealed bruise. "He did this to you?" Jennifer nodded, then recounted everything. The missing watch, Matthew's accusation, the mysterious notebook, and the text from E. "I need to know what's happening," Jennifer concluded. "Who took the watch? Who's setting me up? And what Matthew's really doing today?" Zoe's expression hardened. "First things first. This isn't just about a watch or a setup. Matthew hit you. That's assault. You need to leave him." "It's not that simple." "It is that simple," Zoe insisted. "But," she added, seeing Jennifer's expression, "I understand you want answers first, so let's get them." Zoe pulled out her laptop, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Let's start with Richard Sullivan. If he's involved, we need to know how." Within minutes, Zoe had pulled up financial records, social media profiles, and news articles about the CFO. Richard Sullivan, 45, divorced twice, currently married to Melanie Sullivan, 32, former model. No children. Zoe scrolled through more information. Joined Blackwood Technologies 8 years ago. Before that, he worked at Vancorp Industries. Wait a minute. What is it? Jennifer leaned closer. Vancorp. That name's come up in one of my other cases. They're under investigation for some sketchy financial practices. Nothing public yet, but there are rumors of offshore accounts, money laundering, the works. And Richard worked there before joining Matthew's company, Jennifer mused. Could he have brought those practices with him? Possible, Zoe agreed. But we need more than suspicions. She closed her laptop. I need to make some calls, check some records. Meanwhile, you said Matthew was supposed to be in Boston today, but got a text about a 2 p.m. meeting. Jennifer nodded. Then let's find out where he really is. While Zoe made calls to contacts who could track Matthew's actual whereabouts, Jennifer returned to the penthouse to search for more clues. She started in Matthew's home office, a space she rarely entered. The room was meticulously organized. Matthew couldn't tolerate chaos, with everything in its place. Except for one detail, the framed photo on his desk, usually positioned precisely parallel to the edge, was slightly askew. Jennifer picked it up, a picture from their honeymoon in Santorini, and noticed a small key taped to the back of the frame. The key was small, possibly for a safety deposit box or a locker. Jennifer pocketed it, then continued her search. In the drawer of Matthew's nightstand, she found a receipt from a hotel in Brooklyn, not Boston, dated for today. The Williamsburg Hotel, room reserved under the name Michael Bennett. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. M never went to Boston. Private car took him to Brooklyn. Williamsburg Hotel. Jennifer's suspicions were confirmed. Whatever Matthew was hiding, whatever game he was playing, it was happening right now in Brooklyn. I'm going there, she texted back. Wait for me, came Zoe's immediate reply. But Jennifer was already calling for a car. She couldn't wait. Not when she was finally close to understanding what was happening to her life, her marriage, and who had set her up to take the fall for the missing watch. What she didn't know was that she was walking directly into a trap, one that had been months in the making. Chapter 2. Beneath the surface. The Williamsburg Hotel stood against the Brooklyn skyline, its modern architecture a stark contrast to the converted warehouses surrounding it. Jennifer pulled the collar of her coat higher as she entered the lobby, sunglasses concealing her face despite the overcast day. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she approached the front desk. I'm supposed to meet Michael Bennett, she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. Could you let him know I'm here? The desk clerk tapped at his computer. Mr. Bennett is in the rooftop lounge, ma'am. Shall I call up? No, Jennifer said quickly. I'd like to surprise him. The elevator ride to the rooftop gave Jennifer time to question her impulsiveness. What if Matthew saw her? What would she say? But as the doors slid open to reveal the glass-enclosed lounge with its panoramic views of Manhattan, all doubts vanished. Because there, at a corner table overlooking the East River, sat her husband, with Elise Winters. Elise, Matthew's executive assistant for the past 2 years. Elise, with her impeccable credentials and cool efficiency. Elise, whose handwriting Jennifer suddenly realized matched exactly the notes in the leather-bound book. They hadn't noticed her yet. Jennifer slipped behind a large potted plant, close enough to hear their conversation. The client is getting impatient, Elise was saying, her voice low but intense. We promised delivery today. Matthew leaned forward. Tell them things have changed. The price just doubled. That wasn't the agreement. You can't just... I can do whatever I want, Matthew cut in, his tone hardening to the one Jennifer recognized from his worst moments. The watch is worth 10 times what they're offering. And now that Jennifer's out of the picture, Jennifer's blood froze. Out of the picture? What did that mean? She's not out yet, Elise replied. The police haven't... They will be, Matthew interrupted. The evidence is all there. The watch in her private safe, the offshore account in her name. By this time tomorrow, my wife will be facing grand larceny charges, possibly fraud. The prenup is clear. Infidelity or criminal activity voids all claims to my assets. Jennifer had to stifle a gasp. Matthew had planned this. The watch wasn't really missing. He'd hidden it himself, planning to plant it among her belongings and report it stolen. He was setting her up for arrest, for public humiliation, all to void their prenuptial agreement. And what about us? Elise asked, reaching across to touch Matthew's hand. The gesture was intimate, familiar. Jennifer felt sick. Once the divorce is final, once the IPO goes through, we'll have everything we planned, Matthew assured her. But we have to be patient, careful. The notebook, Elise began. A masterstroke, Matthew smiled, leaving it for her to find, full of cryptic notes about the watch. She'll think she's uncovering some conspiracy, while really she's walking right into our trap. They had planned every detail, the missing watch, the planted notebook, even Matthew's violence. Had that been calculated too? A way to destabilize her, to make her emotional and less rational. Jennifer's phone vibrated in her pocket. Zoe, probably wondering where she was. The movement caught Elise's attention. Her head snapped toward Jennifer's hiding spot. Someone's there, she hissed to Matthew. Jennifer didn't wait. She turned and rushed toward the elevator, heart pounding. Behind her, she heard chairs scraping, Matthew's voice calling out. The elevator doors opened just as she reached them, and she practically fell inside, jabbing frantically at the lobby button. As the doors closed, she caught a glimpse of Matthew's face, contorted with the same rage she'd seen when he'd struck her. But now there was something else there too. Fear. She had caught him, exposed his plan, and that made her dangerous. In the lobby, Jennifer ran straight into Zoe. Jen, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. We need to leave. Now, Jennifer grabbed Zoe's arm, pulling her toward the exit. I'll explain in the car. Once safely in Zoe's car, Jennifer recounted everything she'd overheard. That bastard, Zoe breathed when Jennifer finished. He's framing you, and he hit you to make you emotional, less likely to think clearly. He and Elise are selling the watch, Jennifer added, to some client. But that's secondary. The main plan is to void our prenup, to leave me with nothing when the company goes public next month. Zoe put the car in drive. We're going to the police. No, Jennifer said firmly. Not yet. If we go now, it's my word against theirs. Matthew has the resources to make me look unstable, vengeful. We need evidence. What kind of evidence? Jennifer thought of the key she'd found. I'm not sure yet, but I know where to start looking. The key led them to a storage facility in Queens, a nondescript building with rows of identical units. Unit 217 opened with a click, revealing a small space filled with cardboard boxes and filing cabinets. What is this place? Zoe asked, stepping inside. I have no idea, Jennifer admitted. I didn't even know Matthew had a storage unit. They began searching through the boxes. Most contained old financial records, photographs, and memorabilia from Matthew's past, items he apparently couldn't bear to throw away, but didn't want cluttering his minimalist penthouse. In the back of the unit, Jennifer found a locked filing cabinet. On a hunch, she tried the small key again. It fit perfectly. Inside were folders labeled with dates going back 5 years, exactly when Matthew and Jennifer had gotten married. The most recent folder, dated just 2 weeks ago, contained what appeared to be surveillance photos of Jennifer. "He's been having me followed," Jennifer whispered, flipping through images of herself at lunch with friends, shopping, entering her art history lecture at Columbia, where she occasionally guest taught. "For months at least." "Look at this," Zoe said, pulling out another folder. This one contained financial documents, evidence of wire transfers to offshore accounts, all in Jennifer's name. Accounts she had never known existed. "He's been moving money under my name," Jennifer realized, setting me up to take the fall for embezzlement. Further exploration revealed more damning evidence, a detailed plan for framing Jennifer for the theft of the watch and company funds, emails between Matthew and Elise discussing their affair and their scheme, and most disturbing of all, a draft press release announcing Jennifer's arrest and Matthew's heartbreak at his wife's betrayal. "He's thought of everything," Jennifer said, her voice hollow. "The IPO is next month. The company will be worth billions, and I'd get half of his shares under our prenup. Unless you're convicted of a crime," Zoe finished, "then the prenup is void." They copied everything, carefully replacing the originals exactly as they'd found them. Matthew wouldn't know they'd discovered his plan. As they left the storage unit, Jennifer's phone rang. "Matthew, where are you?" he demanded without preamble. Jennifer steeled herself, forcing her voice to sound normal. "At the spa." "Why aren't you in Boston?" A brief pause. "Flight was cancelled. Weather. I'm heading there tomorrow instead." The ease with which he lied was chilling. This man, whom she'd loved and trusted for 5 years, was a stranger. "Will you be home for dinner?" she asked, maintaining the charade. "No, late meetings, don't wait up." After hanging up, Jennifer turned to Zoe. "I need to get back to the penthouse before he does. There's one more piece to this puzzle." "What's that?" "The watch. If he's planted it in my things, I need to find it first." Back at the penthouse, Jennifer went straight to her private safe, a small one in her closet, separate from the main safe where Matthew kept his valuables. The combination was her birthday, something Matthew had always criticized as too predictable. The safe was empty. If Matthew planned to plant the watch there, he hadn't done it yet. "Maybe it's not here at all," Zoe suggested. "Maybe it's still with this client they mentioned." "No," Jennifer shook her head. "Matthew wouldn't let that watch out of his control. It means too much to him." They searched the penthouse methodically, focusing on Jennifer's personal spaces, places where a discovery would seem most incriminating. Nothing in her jewelry box, her desk, her vanity. "Wait," Jennifer stopped suddenly. "He wouldn't hide it in an obvious place. He'd put it somewhere I rarely go, somewhere that would make it look like I was really trying to conceal it." Her eyes fell on the guest room at the end of the hall, a room they never used, kept pristine for visitors who never came. In the closet, behind a row of generic guest robes, Jennifer found a small travel bag she'd forgotten she owned. And inside, wrapped in silk, lay Matthew's Patek Philippe watch. "Got you," she whispered. As she held the watch, the final piece of Matthew and Elise's plan became clear. They'd orchestrate a discovery of the watch, call the police, and Jennifer would have no explanation for how it ended up hidden in a bag in the guest room closet. With her apparent theft, the offshore account they'd created in her name, and Matthew's resources to hire the best lawyers, she wouldn't stand a chance. "What now?" Zoe asked. Jennifer carefully returned the watch to its hiding place. "Now we turn their trap against them." That evening, Jennifer attended the Children's Hospital Charity Gala as planned. She needed to maintain appearances to make Matthew believe his scheme was still on track. The event was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where Jennifer had once worked before meeting Matthew. The irony wasn't lost on her. As she circulated among New York's elite, accepting air kisses and making small talk about summer homes in the Hamptons, Jennifer spotted a familiar face across the room. Richard Sullivan, Matthew's CFO, the man she'd seen at Daniel with the blonde woman. Making a decision, Jennifer approached him. "Richard, how nice to see you." Sullivan startled, nearly spilling his champagne. "Jennifer, I didn't expect to see you here tonight." "Oh, why not?" "I'm on the planning committee." "Right, of course." He tugged at his collar. "I meant I thought you might be busy, with Matthew out of town." Jennifer smiled thinly. "Matthew's business trips always leave me with plenty of time for charity work." Sullivan's eyes darted around the room, as if looking for an escape. "How is Matthew?" "Busy with the IPO preparations, I imagine." "Very busy," Jennifer agreed. In fact, I'm surprised you're not with him in Boston. Boston? Sullivan's confusion was genuine. I thought he was in... He caught himself. Well, I'm not privy to his entire schedule, of course. Of course, Jennifer echoed. By the way, I saw you at Daniel last night. I wanted to come say hello, but you seemed occupied. Sullivan's face paled. Last night? I don't recall. You were with a lovely blonde woman. Not your wife, I believe. He drained his champagne. If you'll excuse me, I need to make a call. Jennifer watched him hurry away, phone already pressed to his ear. She'd rattled him exactly as she'd intended. If Sullivan was part of Matthew's scheme, he'd warn him that Jennifer was asking questions, and if he wasn't involved, he might inadvertently provide valuable information. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Found something. Meet me outside in 10. Jennifer made her excuses to the gala committee and slipped outside. Zoe was waiting in her car. What did you find? Jennifer asked, sliding into the passenger seat. Zoe handed her a tablet. I did some digging into Elise Winters. She's not who she claims to be. On the screen was a series of newspaper articles and mugshots of a younger Elise under a different name, Emily Wilson, arrested for fraud and identity theft in Chicago 5 years ago. She served 18 months, Zoe explained. After release, she changed her name and reinvented herself, started working at Blackwood Technologies 2 years ago. Right around when things started to change between Matthew and me, Jennifer noted. He became more distant, more critical. There's more, Zoe said. I looked into that client they mentioned. Based on fragments of conversations my contact recorded at the hotel after you left, I think they're trying to sell the watch to Anton Vasiliev, the Russian art collector. Jennifer frowned. Why would he want Matthew's watch? Not for the watch itself, Zoe explained. For what's inside it. Inside? Zoe nodded. From what I can gather, Matthew's been using the watch as a carrier for confidential information. The watch has a hidden compartment containing a micro SD card with sensitive data, possibly industrial secrets, algorithm details, something valuable enough to risk everything for. Jennifer sat back, processing this new information. So the watch isn't just sentimental. It's valuable because of what it contains. Exactly. And Elise has been brokering the deal with Vasiliev. But it sounds like Matthew's getting greedy, wanting to renegotiate the price. That's why they were arguing at the hotel, Jennifer realized. Elise wants to complete the deal as planned, but Matthew wants more money. Meanwhile, they're still moving forward with framing you, Zoe added. It's the perfect cover. If you're arrested for stealing the watch, no one will look too closely at what Matthew's really doing with it. Jennifer stared out at the glittering museum facade, her mind racing. We need to get ahead of them. Beat them at their own game. How? Jennifer turned to her friend, determination hardening her resolve. By taking control of the narrative, and I know exactly who can help us. The next morning, Jennifer met with Claire Bennett, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and an old friend from her museum days. They sat in a quiet corner of a busy coffee shop, far from any of Matthew's usual haunts. This is quite a story, Jen, Claire said after hearing Jennifer's carefully edited version of events. But without concrete evidence, I can't run it. Blackwood would sue the paper into oblivion. I understand, Jennifer replied. I'm not asking you to publish anything yet, just to be ready when the time comes. And when will that be? Jennifer smiled. Very soon. After leaving Claire, Jennifer made her next move. She called Theodore Blackwood, Matthew's 73-year-old uncle, and the one family member who had always treated Jennifer with genuine warmth. As the former chairman of Blackwood Industries before Matthew took over, Theodore still held significant sway with the board. I need to see you, Jennifer told him. It's about Matthew and the company. Theodore agreed to meet her at his Upper West Side apartment that afternoon. The elegant pre-war building reflected Theodore's old money sensibilities, a sharp contrast to Matthew's ultra-modern aesthetic. My dear, Theodore said, as he ushered her into his book-lined study. What's troubling you? You sounded quite upset on the phone. Jennifer took a deep breath. I've discovered something, Theodore, something disturbing about Matthew and the company. She showed him the evidence she and Zoe had gathered. The financial records showing embezzlement, the offshore accounts in Jennifer's name, the plan to frame her for theft of the watch. I've suspected something was amiss, Theodore said gravely. The financial reports have shown discrepancies for months, but this, he shook his head, this is beyond anything I imagined. There's more, Jennifer said. She explained about the micro SD card hidden in the watch, The deal with Vasiliev. Industrial espionage, Theodore muttered. Selling company secrets. Matthew has betrayed everything his father built. He looked up at Jennifer. What do you need from me? Your influence with the board, she replied. When this comes to light, Matthew will try to spin it to make me the scapegoat. I need someone of unquestionable integrity to stand up for the truth. Theodore's expression hardened with resolve. You'll have it. Every bit of it. As Jennifer left Theodore's apartment, she felt the first glimmer of hope since finding the bruise on her cheek. She had allies now. The pieces were falling into place. But Matthew was still dangerous, and his plan was still in motion. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Watch your back. M knows you're digging. R. Richard Sullivan. Warning her. So he wasn't fully complicit in Matthew's scheme after all. Jennifer's resolve strengthened. It was time for the final phase of her counterattack. Chapter 3. The Tangled Web. That evening, Jennifer returned to the penthouse to find Matthew waiting for her. He sat in the living room, a glass of scotch in hand, his expression unreadable. You're back early, she said, trying to keep her voice neutral. How was Boston? Cut short, Matthew replied. Too many distractions. His eyes narrowed slightly. How was your day? Jennifer moved to the bar, pouring herself a glass of wine to hide the trembling of her hands. Busy. The charity gala was a success. She turned to face him. I saw Richard there. Something flickered in Matthew's eyes. Concern, perhaps. Did you? He seemed nervous. Matthew took a sip of scotch. Richard's always nervous. It's why he's good with numbers and terrible with people. Jennifer laughed softly, playing along. True. She sat across from him, maintaining a safe distance. I've been thinking about what happened the other day. With the watch. Matthew's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. Have you? Yes. And I want you to know that I understand how important that watch is to you. If I knew anything about where it was, I would tell you. Would you? Matthew's tone was skeptical. Of course. Jennifer met his gaze steadily. But I've been wondering, who else knew about the watch? Who else might have had access to it? Matthew's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? Nothing. Jennifer backtracked slightly. Just thinking aloud. It's such a valuable piece, both financially and sentimentally. If someone took it, they must have had a reason. Yes, Matthew agreed coldly. They must have. The tension between them was palpable. Jennifer knew she was playing a dangerous game, but she needed to plant the seeds of doubt, to make Matthew wonder if his plan was unraveling. I should get some rest, she said, rising. It's been a long day. Matthew watched her move toward the bedroom. Jennifer. His voice stopped her. I've noticed you've been different lately. Distracted. Is there something you want to tell me? Jennifer recognized the trap in his words. He was fishing, trying to determine how much she knew. Just tired, she replied with a small smile, and still processing what happened between us. It's not every day your husband accuses you of theft and... She let the sentence hang, her hand unconsciously rising to her concealed bruise. Shame flickered across Matthew's face, though Jennifer couldn't tell if it was genuine or performative. I told you, I'm seeing my therapist about that. It won't happen again. I know, Jennifer said softly. Good night, Matthew. In the bedroom, Jennifer texted Zoe. He's home early, suspicious. Moving to next phase tomorrow. Zoe's reply came instantly. Be careful. I'll be ready. Jennifer lay awake long after Matthew joined her in bed, keeping to his side of the mattress. She listened to his breathing, wondering when exactly their marriage had become this battlefield of secrets and lies. Had he ever loved her? Had it all been a calculation, a business merger rather than a marriage? The memories of their early days together still felt real. His laughter when she'd spilled wine on his custom suit at the gallery opening where they met. His vulnerability when he'd spoken about his father's death. The tender way he'd proposed on the rooftop of the Metropolitan Museum. Had all of that been an act? It didn't matter now. Whatever they'd had was gone, destroyed by his betrayal. And tomorrow Jennifer would begin the process of taking back her life. Morning arrived with the sound of rain against the windows. Jennifer woke to find Matthew's side of the bed empty, the shower running in the master bathroom. Her phone showed a text from Zoe. All set, Detective Hayes will meet you at 10. Jennifer had made one final call the previous night to Detective Laurel Hayes of the NYPD's Financial Crimes Division. Jennifer had met her at a fundraiser last year, had been impressed by her sharp intelligence and unflinching integrity. Now she was betting her future on those qualities. When Matthew emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, Jennifer was sitting at her vanity applying makeup. "You're up early," he commented, watching her reflection. "Breakfast meeting," she replied. "The museum board wants to discuss a potential exhibition I might curate." The lie came easily. Jennifer had spent years managing Matthew's social calendar, arranging her life around his needs and whims. She knew how to craft a believable schedule. "I thought you'd given up all that," Matthew said, disapproval evident in his tone. "The board position is ceremonial, Jennifer. It doesn't require actual work." Jennifer met his eyes in the mirror. "I miss it sometimes. The academic work, the research." Matthew shrugged, dismissing her nostalgia as he moved to his closet. "Well, enjoy your meeting. I'll be at the office all day. The IPO preparation is entering the final phase." "Exciting times," Jennifer murmured, applying another layer of concealer to her bruise. After Matthew left, Jennifer moved quickly. She removed the watch from its hiding place in the guest room, carefully placing it in an evidence bag Zoe had provided. Then she gathered the files they'd copied from the storage unit, the notebook that had started her investigation, and her phone with recorded conversations from the past 2 days. At precisely 10 a.m., Jennifer met Detective Hayes at a quiet cafe in a neighborhood where she was unlikely to run into anyone from Matthew's circle. "This is a serious accusation, Mrs. Blackwood," Detective Hayes said after Jennifer had outlined the situation. "Your husband is a powerful man." "I have evidence," Jennifer replied, laying out the documents and explaining the elaborate scheme to frame her for theft and embezzlement. He and his assistant Elise Winters, who has a criminal record under her former name, Emily Wilson, planned to steal company secrets and sell them to a foreign buyer while setting me up to take the fall. Hayes examined the evidence methodically, her expression revealing nothing. "And the watch?" Jennifer placed the evidence bag on the table. "Here. Inside is a micro SD card containing proprietary algorithms from Blackwood Technologies. The watch itself is worth millions, but the data inside is priceless." "Why bring this to me?" Hayes asked. "Why not go directly to the FBI? This crosses into federal territory with the industrial espionage angle." "Because I need someone I can trust," Jennifer said simply. "Someone who won't be swayed by Matthew's influence or connections." Hayes nodded, seeming to accept this. "I'll need to bring in federal authorities regardless, but I can oversee the initial investigation." She paused. "Mrs. Blackwood, I have to ask, if your husband has already assaulted you once, aren't you concerned about your safety if he discovers what you're doing?" "That's why I'm not going home," Jennifer said. "I have arrangements in place." Those arrangements included a hotel room booked under a false name, courtesy of Zoe's connections, and a temporary restraining order filed that morning based on the documented assault. "One more thing," Jennifer added. "Matthew doesn't work alone. His CFO, Richard Sullivan, may be involved, though I believe he's having second thoughts, and there may be others at the company participating in the embezzlement scheme." Hayes made notes in her small notebook. "We'll need to move quickly but carefully. Financial crimes leave paper trails, but defendants with resources like your husband can make evidence disappear if they're tipped off." "I understand," Jennifer said. "When do we start?" "We already have," Hayes replied, signaling to a man seated at a nearby table. He approached, showing an FBI badge. "Agent Morales will take your formal statement while I secure the evidence. By this afternoon, we'll have warrants to access the offshore accounts and search the company records." As Jennifer began recounting her story to Agent Morales, her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "Matthew looking for you. Called Penthouse twice. Marissa covered for you." Jennifer silenced her phone. There was no turning back now. By mid-afternoon, the investigation was moving at a rapid pace. Jennifer had given her statement, the FBI had secured warrants, and Detective Hayes had assembled a team to execute them. Jennifer herself was secluded in a hotel room under police protection, with Zoe keeping her company. "Theodore called," Zoe informed her. "The board has convened an emergency meeting. Matthew doesn't know why yet." Jennifer nodded, pacing the hotel room. "And the press? Claire's ready. She'll break the story once the arrests happen." Jennifer's phone rang. Matthew's ringtone. She showed the screen to Zoe. "Answer it," Zoe advised. "Act normal. He can't know where you are." Taking a deep breath, Jennifer accepted the call. "Hello? Where are you?" Matthew's voice was tense, controlled. "At the museum, like I told you. Board meeting ran long." "You're not at the museum, Jennifer. I just called there." Jennifer's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I stepped out for lunch with Adrienne." We're at that little Italian place on Madison. Come home now. The command was cold, brooking no argument. I can't just walk out on Adrian, Jennifer protested. What's wrong? Theodore has called an emergency board meeting, something about financial irregularities. So it was beginning. The board was moving faster than expected. That sounds serious, Jennifer said, feigning concern. Do you want me to skip the afternoon session and come support you? A pause. No. Finish your lunch. But come directly home afterward. No more museum today. Of course, is there anything I can do? Just come home. The line went dead. Jennifer looked at Zoe. He's nervous. Theodore has already alerted the board. Good, Zoe said. The more rattled he is, the more likely he'll make a mistake. Jennifer's phone buzzed again. A text from Richard Sullivan. FBI at the office. Taking files. M. Furious. Says you betrayed him. So Matthew had figured it out. He knew she was behind the investigation. We need to move, Jennifer said, showing Zoe the text. He knows. Zoe was already calling Detective Hayes. We need to accelerate the timetable, she said when the detective answered. Blackwood knows his wife is involved. Hayes's response was immediate. Stay where you are. I'm sending officers to your location now. Within minutes, there was a knock at the hotel room door. Zoe checked the peephole. It's Hayes, she confirmed, opening the door. Detective Hayes entered with 2 uniformed officers. Mrs. Blackwood, we have a situation. Your husband has fled the Blackwood Technologies offices. He's currently unaccounted for. Jennifer felt a chill run through her. He'll be looking for me. Which is why we're moving you to a secure location, Hayes said. We have officers at your penthouse in case he returns there. As they prepared to leave, Jennifer's phone rang again. Unknown number. Should I answer? She asked Hayes. The detective nodded. Put it on speaker. Jennifer accepted the call. Hello? Hello, Jennifer. It was Elise's voice. I think it's time we talked. I have nothing to say to you. Oh, but you do, Elise replied. You want to know where Matthew is, and I want immunity. Hayes stepped forward. This is Detective Laurel Hayes, NYPD. Ms. Winters, if you have information about Matthew Blackwood's whereabouts, now is the time to share it. A pause. I want a deal. Full immunity. In writing. That's not how this works, Hayes responded. But cooperation is always considered during prosecution. Not good enough, Elise snapped. Matthew is on his way to meet Vasiliev. Once that deal is completed, he's leaving the country on a private jet. You'll never find him. Jennifer leaned toward the phone. Elise, Matthew will throw you under the bus the first chance he gets. You know that. He's already prepared evidence against you. A signed confession for embezzlement dated months ago. Silence on the line, then. You're lying. We found his insurance policy in the storage unit, Jennifer continued. The one in Queens, Unit 217. He's been planning to betray you from the beginning, Elise. That son of a bitch, Elise whispered. Help us find him, Jennifer urged. It's your only chance. After a long moment, Elise spoke again. He's meeting Vasiliev at the old Blackwood factory in Red Hook, 5 p.m. The deal is for $50 million plus new identities and transport out of the country. Hayes was already signaling to her officers. Thank you for your cooperation, Ms. Winters. I suggest you remain available. One more thing, Elise added, before they could end the call. Matthew has a gun. He said if things went wrong, he'd rather die than go to prison. Be careful. The line went dead. Hayes looked at Jennifer. We need to move now. You'll stay here with Officer Rodriguez while we coordinate with the FBI. No. Jennifer shook her head firmly. I'm coming with you. Mrs. Blackwood, this is a potentially dangerous situation. Detective, my husband has spent years manipulating me, using me, and now framing me. I need to see this through. I need to see him face justice. Hayes studied her for a long moment, then nodded reluctantly. You'll stay in the vehicle, and you'll wear a vest. As they left the hotel through a service entrance, Jennifer felt a strange calm settling over her. After days of fear and uncertainty, of uncovering layer upon layer of betrayal, the end was finally in sight. What she didn't know was that Matthew had one final trap prepared, one that would put everything she'd fought for at risk. The old Blackwood factory in Red Hook stood against the darkening sky, its abandoned silhouette, a monument to an earlier era of New York manufacturing. Police and FBI vehicles surrounded the perimeter, lights off, officers moving into position with tactical precision. Jennifer sat in an unmarked car with Detective Hayes, watching the operation unfold through the windshield. Thermal imaging confirms 2 individuals inside. Hayes reported after receiving an update through her radio. Northeast corner office, second floor. Matthew and Vasiliev, Jennifer murmured. Hayes nodded. Agent Morales is leading the entry team. They'll secure the building and make the arrest. The minutes stretched interminably as they waited. Jennifer found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here, from the art historian who had fallen in love with a charismatic tech entrepreneur to the woman who had dismantled his criminal conspiracy. She barely recognized the naive person she'd been just a week ago, before the bruise on her cheek had shattered her illusions. Suddenly, the radio crackled. Movement at the east entrance. One male exiting the building. Jennifer leaned forward, straining to see. A figure emerged from a side door of the factory, moving quickly toward a black SUV parked nearby. "That's Matthew," she said, recognizing his gait even at a distance. Hayes was already on the radio. Subject identified as Matthew Blackwood, moving toward a vehicle. All units, prepare to intercept. What happened next unfolded with shocking speed. FBI agents converged on Matthew, ordering him to freeze. He turned, spotted the approaching officers, and sprinted in the opposite direction, directly toward where Jennifer and Hayes were parked. "Stay down," Hayes ordered Jennifer, drawing her weapon and exiting the vehicle. But Jennifer couldn't look away. Through the windshield she watched as Matthew ran toward them, his face contorted with desperation. He hadn't seen their car yet, was simply running blindly away from the agents behind him. Then he spotted the vehicle, and for a moment his eyes met Jennifer's through the glass. Recognition, rage, betrayal. Matthew stopped, reaching inside his jacket. "Gun!" an agent shouted. "Matthew, don't!" Jennifer cried, knowing he couldn't hear her from inside the car. Time seemed to slow. Matthew's hand emerged with a pistol. Officers shouted commands for him to drop the weapon. His eyes remained locked on Jennifer's, filled with a cold fury she'd seen only once before, when his palm had connected with her cheek. A single shot rang out. Matthew fell. Jennifer's scream was silent, trapped in her throat as she watched her husband crumple to the pavement. Officers rushed forward, securing the weapon, checking for signs of life. Hayes returned to the car, her face grim. "He's alive." Shot in the shoulder by one of our officers when he raised his weapon. Jennifer nodded numbly. "Vasiliev?" "In custody. The exchange never happened. We recovered the watch and the data. It was over. The conspiracy exposed, the conspirators captured." Jennifer should have felt triumph, or at least relief. Instead, she felt a profound emptiness as she watched paramedics load Matthew into an ambulance. "What happens now?" she asked Hayes. "Now," the detective replied, "we build the case, and you rebuild your life." The task seemed impossible in that moment, watching the remnants of her marriage being carted away on a stretcher. But somewhere beneath the shock and exhaustion, Jennifer felt the first stirrings of something she'd lost during her years with Matthew. Freedom. As the police cars began to depart, lights flashing against the twilight sky, Jennifer made a promise to herself. This wouldn't be the end of her story. It would be the beginning. Chapter 4. Reclamation. The next 48 hours unfolded with the precision of a Swiss watch. Appropriate, Jennifer thought wryly, given what was at stake. Every news outlet in the country seemed to be running the story. Tech billionaire arrested, espionage, fraud, and attempted murder. Jennifer watched the coverage from the safety of Zoe's apartment, where she'd taken refuge while her name was cleared and her penthouse was processed as a crime scene. The photos of Matthew being led from the hospital to a police car in handcuffs, shoulder bandaged, face ashen, seemed to feature a stranger. Not the man she'd married, not the man she'd loved. "You need to eat something," Zoe said, placing a plate of toast beside her on the couch. "I'm not hungry," Jennifer replied, her eyes still fixed on the television. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." "I know." Jennifer tore her gaze from the screen, looking at her friend with exhausted eyes. "I keep thinking about who he really was all those years. Was any of it real, Zoe?" Zoe sat beside her. "I don't know. Maybe parts of it were." "I built my life around a mirage," Jennifer's voice cracked. "I gave up my career, my independence, my identity. For what? To be a prop in his performance of success? Hey," Zoe took her hand. "You survived. You outsmarted him. And now you get to reclaim everything he took from you." Before Jennifer could respond, her phone rang. Detective Hayes. "Mrs. Blackwood," Hayes greeted her. "I wanted to update you. Your husband has been formally charged with multiple federal crimes, including wire fraud, money laundering, industrial espionage, and conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice. Elise Winters is cooperating fully in exchange for reduced charges. And the frame-up? The attempt to pin everything on me? We have ample evidence that you were being set up. The offshore accounts, the planted watch, the falsified documents, it's all being unraveled. Your name will be fully cleared. Thank you, Jennifer said quietly. There's one more thing, Hayes added. Your husband is requesting to speak with you. Jennifer felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Why? He wouldn't say. You're under no obligation to see him, of course. Jennifer closed her eyes, considering. Part of her wanted nothing more than to leave Matthew in her past, to never see his face again. But another part needed closure, needed to look him in the eye one last time. I'll do it, she decided. When? Tomorrow morning, at the Federal Detention Center. I can accompany you if you'd like. Please. After ending the call, Jennifer turned to find Zoe watching her with concern. Are you sure about this? Zoe asked. No, Jennifer admitted, but I need to do it anyway. The detention center was a stark, imposing structure of concrete and steel. Jennifer followed Detective Hayes through security checkpoints and sterile hallways, her heart pounding with each step. The visitor's room was small, with a table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs on opposite sides. I'll be right outside, Hayes assured her. If you want to leave at any point, just signal through the window. Jennifer nodded, smoothing her simple black dress with trembling hands. She'd dressed carefully that morning, wanting to appear composed, unaffected. The bruise on her cheek had faded to a yellowish shadow, still visible despite her makeup. The door opened. 2 guards escorted Matthew in, his hands cuffed in front of him. He wore an orange jumpsuit that hung loosely on his frame. 3 days in detention had already diminished his commanding presence. His eyes, however, remained sharp, calculating as they fell on Jennifer. The guards positioned him in the chair across from her. You have 15 minutes, one informed them before they retreated to the door. Silence stretched between them, a vast canyon of broken trust and betrayal. You look terrible, Jennifer finally said, surprised by the steadiness of her voice. A ghost of Matthew's familiar smirk crossed his face. Prison fashion doesn't suit me. He leaned forward slightly. Thank you for coming. Why did you want to see me, Matthew? He studied her face. I wanted to see if it was worth it. The satisfaction of bringing me down. Was it everything you hoped for? Jennifer met his gaze evenly. I didn't do this for satisfaction. I did it for justice, and to save myself. Always the noble one. Matthew's tone was mocking. The virtuous Jennifer Chen, too good for this world. Is that why you hit me? Jennifer asked quietly. Because I was too good? Because you couldn't corrupt me completely? The question seemed to catch him off guard. For a moment, something like shame flickered across his features. That was a mistake, he said finally. A momentary loss of control. It was the moment I saw you clearly for the first time, Jennifer replied. Everything that followed came from that moment, Matthew. You did this to yourself. He leaned back, his cuffed hands resting on the table. They're offering a deal. 20 years instead of life. If I give them everything, the overseas accounts, the names of everyone involved, the extent of the data breach, and you want my blessing? A bitter laugh escaped him. No. I want you to know that I could implicate you if I wanted to. I could still claim you were complicit, that you benefited from the fraud. But you won't, Jennifer said with certainty, because there's no evidence to support that lie. And you know it. You're too pragmatic to waste leverage on a pointless, vindictive gesture. Matthew's eyes narrowed. You've changed. Yes, the woman I married would have been terrified by that threat. The woman you married doesn't exist anymore, Jennifer said simply. You destroyed her when you raised your hand to her face. Something shifted in Matthew's expression, regret perhaps, or simply the recognition of defeat. What will you do now? He asked. Rebuild. Return to my work at the museum. Reclaim my name. The money. I don't want your money, Matthew, Jennifer interrupted. The courts will decide what happens to the assets, and whatever legally comes to me, I'll use to start a foundation for victims of domestic abuse and financial crimes. For the first time, Matthew seemed genuinely surprised. You'd give it all away? Every penny, Jennifer confirmed. I want nothing from you except my freedom. Matthew fell silent, studying her as if seeing a stranger, perhaps in a way she was. The woman sitting across from him bore little resemblance to the compliant, admiring wife he'd cultivated for 5 years. Time's up, a guard announced from the doorway. Jennifer stood. Goodbye, Matthew. Jennifer, he called as she turned to leave. For what it's worth, I did love you. In the beginning. She paused, looking back at the hollow shell of the man she'd once built her life around. I believe you. That's what makes it all so much sadder. Without another word, she walked out of the room, out of the detention center and into the bright morning sunlight. Detective Hayes fell into step beside her. You okay? Hayes asked. Jennifer took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past week, of the past 5 years, beginning to lift from her shoulders. Yes, she said, I think I am. 3 months later, Jennifer Chen, she'd reclaimed her maiden name, stood before a classroom of graduate students at Columbia University. Her position as guest lecturer in art history felt like coming full circle, returning to the passion she'd set aside during her marriage. The value we assign to objects, to art, to possessions, is rarely about the objects themselves, she told the students. It's about the stories we tell ourselves, the meanings we create. After class, she met Zoe for coffee in a small cafe near campus. Have you seen the news? Zoe asked, sliding her tablet across the table. The headline read, Blackwood Technologies emerges from scandal under new leadership. Share prices stabilize. Below was a photo of Theodore Blackwood and Jennifer standing together at the reopening of the company's headquarters. The board wants me to stay on as consultant for their charitable foundation, Jennifer said. Theodore thinks my unique perspective would be valuable. And? Zoe prompted. Are you going to do it? Jennifer looked out the window, watching students cross the quad, their lives unfolding before them. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the pain, the betrayal, but also the strength she'd discovered within herself. Yes, she said finally, on my terms, part-time alongside teaching. She smiled. I'm reclaiming more than just my name, Zoe. I'm reclaiming my life. The foundation Jennifer established, using her portion of the Blackwood assets after the divorce and criminal proceedings, focused on helping women trapped in abusive relationships, particularly those facing financial control and manipulation. The watch that had started it all, recovered from the factory in Red Hook, had been sold at auction, with the proceeds going directly to the foundation. Sometimes on quiet evenings in her new apartment overlooking Central Park, Jennifer would think about the woman she'd been before, the woman who had believed herself happy in a gilded cage, who had mistaken control for protection, isolation for exclusivity. She'd lost much in the collapse of her marriage, security, status, the future she'd imagined, but she'd gained something far more precious, herself. 1 year to the day after Matthew's arrest, Jennifer received a letter from him. It had been vetted by prison authorities, its contents deemed harmless enough to pass along. For a long time, she left it unopened on her desk, uncertain whether reading his words would pull her back into the darkness she'd escaped. Finally, on a rainy afternoon that reminded her of the day he'd struck her, she opened the envelope. The note was brief. Jennifer, I hear about your foundation, the work you're doing. It seems you found your purpose in the wreckage I created. There's a certain justice in that. I wanted to hate you for what happened, but I find I cannot. In the quiet of this place, with nothing but time for reflection, I've come to understand that you did what I trained you to do. You survived. You adapted. You overcame. Perhaps that is my legacy after all, though not the one I intended. Jennifer folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. She neither responded nor discarded it. Like the bruise that had once marked her face, it was simply another fading reminder of a chapter now closed. Outside, the rain was stopping, sunlight breaking through the clouds. Jennifer gathered her lecture notes and prepared to leave for the university. She had a class to teach, students to inspire, a life to live fully and without fear. As she walked through the city streets, surrounded by the energy and possibility of New York, Jennifer felt a peace she'd never known in the penthouse with its marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows. The watch that had nearly destroyed her was gone, but time was finally hers again. And with each step forward, the sound of Matthew's voice, his presence, his control grew fainter behind her, until all she could hear was the rhythm of her own heart, strong and steady, carrying her into a future entirely of her own making.